The man had accidentally spilled ketchup on himself, but when he turned around, he was horrified to see his mother's camera pointing right at him. He quickly urged his mom to delete the footage, and Annie complied with her son's request. However, just as she was about to erase the recording, she accidentally hit the rewind button. In an instant, everything around them suddenly started playing in reverse. Time had incredibly reverted to the moment when her son had picked up the ketchup bottle. Annie, coming to her senses, watched all of this unfold in terror. She hurriedly told her son to stop what he was doing.
Didn't you just squirt the ketchup on yourself?
But Jack was utterly baffled by his mother's words. Annie tried hard to recall everything that had just happened and attempted to explain it to her son. However, Jack still looked completely bewildered. Annie breathed a sigh of relief, thinking that perhaps it had just been her imagination. But their strange conversation had caught the attention of a nearby police officer, and Annie felt a twinge of unease. The two of them promptly left the restaurant. However, this feeling only intensified as they drove. To help his mother relax, Jack turned on some music in the car and stepped on the gas. But Annie had a vague sense of unease and told her son to slow down. At that moment, Jack picked up the camcorder, intending to capture his mother's flustered state. Suddenly, the harsh sound of police sirens blared from behind their car. Jack hastily pulled over to the side of the road. Annie instructed her son to stay calm and to politely cooperate with the officer's questioning. Jack smiled as he rolled down the window, only to find that the cop standing outside was the same one they had encountered earlier at the restaurant. Annie explained to the officer that she was taking her son to college orientation. However, the policeman seemed hostile. He asked if there were any weapons in the vehicle. Annie quickly denied it with a smile. The officer then asked Jack if he knew why they had been pulled over. Suppressing his annoyance, Jack replied that it was because they were speeding.
Since you admitted it, I'll let that go. However, you were operating a handheld device while driving a motor vehicle.
As soon as he said this, the cop noticed the camcorder in the car. He demanded to know if they were filming him and angrily reached out to grab it. In the chaos, Annie accidentally hit the rewind button again. The next second, as time traveled back to when the mother and son had just started driving, Annie was dumbfounded. She asked her son where the police officer from a moment ago had gone. Her son replied in confusion, asking what cop she was talking about. Annie was stunned. She couldn't believe that the rewind button on the camera could actually make time flow backwards. The momentary time warp left her feeling a bit dizzy, and she urgently told her son to stop the car. At that instant, the same police officer approached them just like before. He ordered Jack to immediately drive off the highway. Jack angrily confronted him, but the officer drew his gun. Seeing this, Annie quickly pressed the rewind button again. This time, the mother and son were back in the restaurant. Annie saw the officer eagerly eating his meal, not yet having noticed the two of them. She hurriedly grabbed Jack, and they fled the scene. To avoid being pursued by the cop again, Annie took a different route and drove at high speed. Along the way, they found a motel to rest temporarily. The TV was broadcasting lottery numbers, and Annie decided to use the camera's time reversal ability to demonstrate its incredible power to her son.